Alright, superstars, here we are. We're on the boat. It's late at night, and finally we're on the tools. Last few days have been just not much going on, okay? It is what it is. And I've just been listening to a very interesting video while I've been drilling and grinding and carrying on. Get this shelf, and I'll show you something in a second. I did want to give a shout out to that fella. Doing my best to get the video up. Out in the boat, the data's not the best, you see, at times. Anyway, I won't chew up your time because you want to check out this, how I'm getting this cupboard off with bird out screws. Now there's heaps of tricks and out there, and I've had a go at quite a few of them. Like, got the big dunger out, the persuader, we've had the grinder out, we've even had, where's he at? We've had the multi-saw out, right? There was another trick where you use, can you see that? Get like a tech bit, self-tapping, right? Supposedly that works. You drill and then you use this, and that'll create a bite in the screw. No, bump, that didn't work. They're a solid screw. It's interesting. It's a solid screw, like this here, stainless steel, I believe. But this head, the drive, right, here in Australia it's called a Phillips head, it just burrs out. They could be a cheap type of screw. Interesting anyway. This is, I've tried to multi-tool saw through, if you can see. It just ate it. Like, look at that. Then again, that's a cheap blade. So what's the deal? What is the solution here? Hole saw. Yeah, figure this light out. There you go. Try that. Right. Because the good thing about doing it that way, I'm actually removing the screw and the wood that screw is in. And the easy solution is you just go and get a scrap bit of wood around, that wouldn't even have to be the same thickness. Because remember, this is a cupboard. Right. You're not going to see what's really going on. Okay. So that's how I'm going about it, and worth the share, right? Worth the share. It's neater. So if you have a look at the screw, I've had a good old crack at it. None of it worked. No, I thought, hang on, what if I got the hole saw? As soon as I got the hole saw, and then that big screwdriver and the hammer, I just started to chip away. Boom. So, beautiful, right? Like I said, you could easily plug that in. Right, just use that hole saw or the hole drill into a scrap bit of wood glue, sand over that if you wanted it nice and la-di-da. But what's going on here, I just want to move that. Well, we're a bit roly-poly out here in the ocean, on the bay. Scrap bit of pallet wood, just ripped it up the middle. Right, drilled through, countersunk, boom, boom, and it's solid. Nice and solid. So then that chappy there is going to get mounted onto that, right? and then that's out of the way, because like I said, we're finally getting somewhere. Way back when, if anyone tuning into the early videos, I discussed that I wanted to get this out of the way, right? Because that's the old live well. I'm not using this boat for what it was built for. Right, it was a cray boat built around about the mid-50s. So this just occupies too much volume in the boat in regards to converting this boat into a little floating home, the Sitting Pelican, right? So there's, if you're paying attention when I'm doing these videos, you'll see there's a lot, and you're more than welcome to throw in some suggestions, because you know, sometimes someone will look at something from a different perspective. You'll have a good idea. So I'm not shy to take on board anyone who's got a good idea. At the moment, the approach with a lot of this is that'll do for the second. It's about getting some momentum going on. And it's taken a midnight on a Wednesday. It's taken midnight. But that's one of the things, being out here on the bay, on the boat, I'll pick up the tools and let's get at it. Not sure why, but I've just needed to sleep. And that video was a bit like understanding that there'll be ebb and flow of stuff. The tide comes in, the tide comes out. The wind comes, the wind goes. Sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're on the ball and sometimes you're not. Yeah, not beating yourself up about it. Just like, hey man, I'm really tired. I'm really tired. I haven't been eating much. And the weather's not the best to paddle in and go to. So I'm just riding it out. I've been doing my best to get something going with the coffee. No. I tell you what makes a difference. Probably what's given me a bit of a spark. It's a company called NexGen, NXGEN, Aussie, I believe. And this is, it's high quality freeze dried beef organs. This is called the Male Optimize. Grass fed, like quality beef. There's a liver, there's the heart, I think there's the pancreas. What else have we got here? Yep, there's the prostate, that's what it was. Bone marrow, heart, liver, and the good old kahunas, the gonads. And then some herbal tea, ashwagandha and yerba mate. A bit of raw honey. So we've got the energy. Long-winded video. That's what I do, right? I have a bit of a chin wag. So this it's taken me a bit, but that's another thing. Maybe that's a little bit of the philosophy. Learning. Look, I'll be honest with you. Anyone who's had some type of interaction with me over the years would know that I was a bit of an angry ant, right? It's called short man syndrome. Like, you ever seen a chihuahua? That's what I used to call it. I used to have a chihuahua complex, right? I was angry at everything. And like I said, in all honesty, I would have ripped that cupboard off. got the hammer, I just started smashing it just through short-minded, narrow-mindedness. Maybe things are changing. I might actually be maturing. I just kept going through the ideas. Like I said, this could be the philosophy with things. Going through the ideas until eventually one of them works. And so the hole saw works. See if you can, hang on, if I put this, there you go. Right. I mean, it's a usable little cupboard, right? So it'll go there. That right there is pretty much just dead and empty space. And down, like I said, along the way, all of this is getting pushed back to the outside of the hole. But it's a work in progress. I've got a big job to do on the outside of this boat, and that's going to be it. Basic, simply, just to give you a visual, is building a carport roof over the entire roof here. At the height at which I can walk out. So it's going to be a bit of a task. And it's potentially will throw out the dynamics of the boat as it is now. I get that. Someone tuning in will say that's going to throw out the balance of the... You're right, it will. But you know what we can do? We can solve that through remodeling and redesigning. The old diesel engine, as it's sort of a sad thing to do because it's a good old diesel engine, but it needs a rebuild anyway. But once again, unfortunately, the big old fella, he just takes up too much volume in the boat. Right? Bit of an extended video. But why not? You might get an idea. So underneath there is a big old 4-cylinder tractive diesel engine. Okay. So all of this wonderful space here is like you just can't access it as much as you want. So if you imagine down there is almost a meter of space. So look at all of this volume here that really... So you imagine that, you see down there, this would be an entry. And then you imagine for a second that there is a ladder that goes down there to the bottom. So then this opens up all of this. And because I'm dropping the floor, I now have all this vertical space. And if you wonder, well, how are you going to... Well, that's all right. We'll just leave that for as it is for the second. Right? Just so we can keep moving the boat. But what's going to occur? I'm going outboard. Then it's be a game changer. So the other day, to test things out, I moved Sitting Pelican with the 8 horsepower that's on my sailing boat. And it wasn't dead calm, but it wasn't crazy weather either. And we moved along quite well. So that just solidified my investment in a 30 horsepower outboard to put on the back of this chappie. And that'll give me plenty of propulsion to move this boat in fair weather, because it's not a sailing boat, right? This is my floating home. So the strategy is that I move this boat in fair weather to suitable anchorages to keep me out of the bad weather. That makes sense. Right, you beauty. So let's just see if we got some data. Have we got some data going on? Yeah. Oh, before I sign off, I want to see if I can get that video up for you. Do a refresh. Yeah, so that's one of the advantages of being out on a boat, out on the bay is who's gonna come out here in the middle of the night saying, "Oi, oi, you're making too much noise." They literally got a. It's about a kilometre. It'd be about a kilometre from the shore, out here in the bay. So someone would have to get up, get their boat. And that's one thing I'd say, if you're looking at boats and you've got fiberglass, wood and steel and you're going through your mind, well, which one. Like a lot of things, everything has pros and cons. There's a compromise. My vote here would be what the one thing about the wood, it's great insulation properties. Just straight off the bat. Think about that compared to fiberglass and steel. And with these old boats, they're like double, you just call it like double skin or double hold. So you got your outer planking, then you got your beams, and then you've got the inner planking running on those beams. So it creates like a small void, and that void actually acts as a bit of a insulator. So it's surprising what you think might be noisy and the noise that travels out of the boat compared to if you're on a steel boat or a fiberglass boat. So that's just something I've noticed, and next time I did a video, I'll share that with people. Just if you're looking at a boat, wood's an all right material too. That's easily available, and when you look at steel's constantly fighting, right? Fighting the environment, just straight off the bat. Wood, the good thing about wood here, this type of wood or any type of wood that's usually selected for a boat, already has a built-in properties. Does that make sense? It already has built-in properties that make it favourable to use for boat building. So still has durability, probably more durability over the wood in regards to impact resistance, but might be very close to being on par in regards to maintenance. However, you can't oil steel. Maybe you can. So now they're talking about the properties of the materials themselves. Now, whereas wood, I can oil this, I can paint it, I can fiberglass if I want. Not the best thing, and that's where fiberglass over ply, pros and cons once again. But once water gets in under fiberglass, which I've noticed what they've done here out on the deck, and what was brought to my attention by other boaties who have greater knowledge, that's a bit of a no-no, and you're better off just sticking with a good quality oil-based paint, or if you're okay with it, regular oiling. So you just strip back what is called it's tarnished. That's old oil that's been weathered. Strip that back and re-oil. It's a bit like polishing your car, really, just looking after things. Come on, man, let's get this video up to show the folks. I don't know. Maybe it's having issues because I've got the... So that's my props for wood. Also, still, the amount of the tools that you need to maintain still a little bit different to wood. They need a bit more juice, right? The main one being the welder is what I did a research on, and straight off the bat you need somewhere around the minimum of 5,500–6,000 watts to do effective welding. So that's your generator. You won't be able to do that on an inverter setup. I've already researched it. You could, but bzz, bzz, I mean, that's it. Lets things cool down. You just don't have that constant supply as you would with a generator. And ultimately, diesel. If you're running a diesel engine, it makes sense to have a diesel generator. But they're up there, right? And for the costs of something of that nature, and also real estate. That's the one thing about the boat, having a boat, and it would be same to van life really too. You be considerate of how much space does this thing occupy and what is the level of its usage. So this video has turned into a bit of a boat talk, hasn't it? Yeah. Come on, man. This might be it. Come on, man. Come on. Here we go. Because this, now I'm talking about this fella on YouTube. He explained it pretty straightforward. None of this fancy, and it was a real person, which I appreciated. That's come on, where? Yeah, there he is. Rightio. I flipped this. So check that out. He used a little bit of a buzzword, the cheat codes, right? But I had that playing on in the background. What's his name? Jose Moreljo. Might be doing a bit of wordplay there. But that was very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And I'm familiar with the type of knowledge, but it's always good just to hear it again and give yourself a reminder. And what I touched on earlier in this video about the last few days, I just haven't been on it. Just tired, doing a lot of sleeping. Because it's like, I'll pick up the tools and it's just that is what it is. I'm like, oh well, this is just how it is, right? It's unfortunate, but and I understand about words and speaking, self-talk, casting spells, and then there's just the simple fact of things. I just don't have my mojo right now. It's just what it is. If you got one shoe on, you got one shoe on. It doesn't matter how you try and talk to yourself and pretend that your other shoe's on. If the other shoe's not on, it's not on. And if you're walking across a field full of prickles, that's just the facts. The foot with no shoe on it's going to get prickles. And now you got prickles in your feet. You go, oh, well, I've got prickles in my feet. No, I better take the prickles out, right? It's been a bit like that the last few days. So maybe it's the supplements, maybe it's the tea, maybe it's the video. But we're back on it. We're doing a bit of momentum. We've got something done. I like to remind myself of that. You did something. Even if it was to fill up the hot water bucket to get ready for a shower. So, and that may sound a little not trivial, or maybe that is the word trivial, or not important enough. Like, what's that got to do with it, mate? It's just something. It's the thinking behind it all, the philosophy or the analogy, that little bit of something, right? Because I've got a whole bunch of bilge water that needs to go as well. So there's these. We're just doing what we can. That's the little mantra here on Wake Maritime. Doing what you can with what you have. And what you have actually may be the momentum, the state of mind. Yeah, sometimes I'm just not on the ball. I'm just not enthused was the word today. And if ever there was a prayer, that was the prayer. I'm really keen to get my enthusiasm back. But that's what happens. That's what happens when this scenario happens, or scenario in regards to leaking your energy. That's so true. It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. I've literally witnessed myself having to recover such a physical dump from my body because of the lack of discipline is one. It's probably the main cause of it. And then there's the direction of energy, but that just comes back to discipline. So these little videos, I appreciate, Jose. Thank you very much. There you go. Have another look at that. Type that in and check him out. Well, that was a good. That's the thing with the content. And it's annoying, I will say, but it's worthwhile. Stopping. I click on those three dots and go, no, I don't want this ad or report, and go, it's fake. It's fake. It's impersonating an Australian identity. This is not real. Block, report. It's like vacuuming. It's putting things away. The more I do this, and then there's another chap you lovely people may already know. This chap, what's his name? Oh, hang on. Let me just show you this one more. So that Jose fellow that just explains it very clearly, and he's also referring to a lot of the original text, like the proper source, and that's always handy. And I won't spoil it for you. Actually, I'll let you watch that video, because once you start to get information about, that's where that came from, and you got a bit of brain about you, you can start to piece things together, and it just makes more sense, and then it gives you a better understanding, obviously. It also gives you, I would say, I will say, I'm going to say, it will give you a better foundation, or a better base to believe your belief system, to build your belief system on. It looks like I've got stuff there, but I don't. It's just the shadow. Interesting. Anyway, so there he is, David Herrera, a solar athlete. You don't need to, but I'd say, if you're interested, if you've been through a few seasons, right? You know what I mean by seasons. Don't use the word age here. Seasons. And depending what season you're born in, well, that's how many seasons you've gone through, right? Once again, he talks scientifically, but you can understand it. It's great understanding what's actually going on with your cells, the sun, the hormones, the cold, and how everything is working within you, and how you can maximize it just by literally living like a human being on the planet, in very close to your natural state. Let's flip this chappie. David Herrera, solar athlete. He's got a podcast. He's got an online school, which I might go and check out. That was an interesting podcast to listen to today. Okay. So there's sunlight hacks to boost your testosterone. They didn't really go. Some of it's buzzwords, right? Just to get you, but very interesting, very knowledgeable man, and easy to understand. So thanks for tuning in. That's what's going on. What are we going to call the video? I'll figure it out, eh? Something about simple hack to remove bird screws, and life on a boat, life on an old wooden boat. Be good, be great, be brilliant, be kind, be strong, be willing, be loving, be protective, be supportive, be nurturing. Give all of that to you, so you can learn to give it out to other people, by all means. That's something I've learnt as a practice I have been missing. And this is why it's just me at the moment, you see. I didn't nurture a lot of things, people. Not even myself. Right? So it took a relationship. It took the relationship. It took being cut off from having the privilege and the honor and I would say the title to be a dad, to be a father, to be a family man, and the passing of my dad last year. Right. And then on top of that, my little puppy got run over. But that's just how it was, right? That's just how it was. But here we are. You're gonna learn one way or the other. You learn one way or the other. The thing is, accepting, absorbing and applying. I've done a lot of acceptance, but I didn't follow up with any absorption of that acceptance of the lesson, and then applying the answer, applying the solution. Because you'll never grow a tree if you don't plant the seed, and the seed will never grow if you don't nurture it. Right, hello. So that's where we're at. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Good things are coming, eh? Good things are coming. See yous.